Good morning, Mata Nui! Welcome back to another episode of the Barraki Talk Show. We're your hosts, the Mielik brothers,
Jacob,
Samuel,
Thomas, and we're glad you're joining us today as we talk our way through the weird and wondrous world of Bionicle. But first, coming up on the Barraki Talk Show. Just walking down the street, a bunch of goats come and kidnap you. I'll give them the mask of time, but telling them things? No. That's way too far, bro.
what do we think about No Comma?
I'm kind of mixed on No Comma.
no comment.
Boo.
All that and more coming up on the Barraki Talk Show. And we are joined once again by our special guest, Jathan Clayton Newton.
Somehow Jathan Clayton Newton has returned.
Okay.
Does he have a jetpack? That's what I want to know.
I do not have a jetpack, but I do have some weird chainsaw skates.
But he
Even
does
better.
have a six-pack.
Okay, so the topic of today's episode will be the Turaga, the wizened elders of Mata Nui who harbor some dark secrets. So the Turaga serve as the elders to villages of Matoran, and they seek to guide them and help them fulfill their destinies, along with the other 3 virtues. On Mata Nui, there are 6 total Turaga, 1 of each element that each tend to their respective villages. So, to start off with getting into the specifics, Turaga Vakama is the Turaga of Kokoro, and he is the leader. Ta-Koro, I meant Ta-Koro, not Kokoro. Ta-Koro. I even when I was writing the notes, I wrote it as Kokoro, and then I had to read. I'm like, what is with me? Kokoro on the brain. First time that's ever happened. So, Turaga Vakama, he wields the Noble Huna, which is the Mask of Stealth. This allows him to turn invisible for a short period of time, although it doesn't silence him in any way, and his shadow is still visible. He wields a fire staff, which is his badge of office. It's something that all Turaga have to show their authority, whatever. Normally, it is a toe tool that has been transformed, although some Turaga do fashion their own badges of offices when they become Turaga, and that will actually happen later. He has a few notable traits. He's actually pretty wise. He's encouraging, but he's not a pushover at all. Having to contend with Tahu, you kind of can't be, and he definitely is like, calm down, Tahu, you need to learn how to do things. So it's a good balance to have him with Ta-Koro. He's also good friends with Turaga Matau, and they like to play pranks on Turaga Nuju, who totally deserves it. And they're also very good at playing pranks because Turaga Matau has the Mask of Illusion, and Vakama has the Mask of Stealth. So, he doesn't know what to think.
Is there a reason why Vakama and Matau are particularly good friends? Because it just from what I know about them, Tahu and Lua don't get along very well at all, but Matau is more similar to Lua than and Vakama is pretty similar to Tahu, so
we will
is there
come
lore?
back to that in the Chroniclers section because some Mata Nui stuff will be relevant.
Okay, perfect.
So Vakama also had a few other traits that Jacob, you pointed out kind of last time. It's how do they seem to see more of people's destinies than normal? And that's because Turaga Vakama can actually see visions of the future. He can just do this naturally, kind of. They come to him randomly, although he claims that they come from the sacred fire of Ta-Koro, although he does often see them while staring at the fires of the Mangai volcano. He is also the leader of the Turaga on Mata Nui, so ultimately the decisions are up to him, and he does often just do things when he feels an executive decision needs to be made. So, for example, when the Toa Nuva are trapped in the shadowed place with the Rahi Nui, that was so that he could elucidate to them that Toa had come before them, right? That's why he trapped him down there. It's this thing was made to hunt Toa, to show them that, there were Toa before, and to imply that he had beaten it before as a Toa. So that was kind of an executive decision on his part. For special events that Turaga Vakama has done, he's the one that banished Takua from the island from the village for lack of work ethic. He later then got captured by fire mahi, which are like fire goats, essentially, which is pretty pathetic on Vakama's part. Just walking down the street, a bunch of goats come and kidnap you.
Yeah, that's happened to me before.
Anyway, in a cruel twist of irony, guess who he was saved by?
Takua?
Yes, very good, class. Of the one thing that we have set up, it got paid off immediately. Anyway, so after that, Takua was mysteriously allowed back in the tribe again. And he was never banished again.
Do we have proof that those goats were not sent by Takua?
We do not. Except that
Interesting.
Makuda's like, oh, I will send my evil goats.
Oh, okay. Got it.
They were from Makuda. They had evil Kanohi. But he didn't give explicit confirmation. Maybe Takua corrupted the Kanohi.
I think it was probably Hafu.
Hafu would never do
What
that.
is the name of the one who sold the infected
Akmu.
Akmu? Yeah, there we
Akmu
go.
was licking the mask and they got all corrupted. I would believe that. So, Vakama, continuing in the strain of executive decisions after the Borak had invaded for the first time and attacked Takoro, he's like, okay, now I'll tell you, Toa, about what the Borak are, because we actually knew they were down there the whole time. And it's like, I think the information would have been helpful a little bit earlier, don't you think? Vakama also saved the Toa Nuva from the Rahi Nui in the place of shadows, and one cool thing is since his mask does not hide his shadow, being in that dark cave made him essentially completely invisible, and he taunted the Rahi Nui with just his voice so that it rammed into the thing and crashed the stalactites on top of it. So I always thought that was a clever way to defeat it. Any questions about Turaga Vakama?
I think Turaga Vakama is pretty sick, honestly. I actually really like his character.
Yeah, I found myself liking him more, especially as a contrast to Tahu, who's just so overbearing. And in the Chronicler section, we'll talk about if they're an upgrade or downgrade of their Metru self, personality-wise. Moving on, next, we come to Turaga no Kama, leader of Ga Koro, not Kokoro. She wears the noble Rao, the Mask of Translation, and this allows her to translate and be able to read any written text or like tablets or whatever. So it's extraordinarily useful for like figuring about ancient languages and things. And as she is a more scholarly personality, it fits her especially well. Her badge of office is a Makuda fishbone trident, and she made this herself shortly after coming to Mata Nui because she is a skilled, she's quite skilled at fishing. So she's like, what better thing than to make a trident out of the bones of my enemies? And I actually think that's pretty hardcore. For her notable traits, she's wise, although she's an excessive talker, and she's very uncompromising because she always believes that she's right, which is generally like a Fire Toa trait, but Nokama definitely has it, and it has major impacts on the lore. A notable event in Nokama's life as a Turaga on Mata Nui is that she got kidnapped by a makiki, which is like a giant Rahi toad, and she was rescued by none other than
Takua.
correct, class. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is just confirming my theory about him sending these Rahi.
Always at the right place at the right time. Suspicious.
Yep. Help, I've been captured by Rahi and I can't get out.
Also, small side note on the Makiki. That is one of the models that you can build using that weird Rahi 30-in-1 set that I was talking about.
You can build the Mahi from that as well.
Yep.
So all of these kidnapping events that you will see later on all come from the events that happen in the Mata Nui online game where you play as Takua. And so you go around like saving Turaga in the villages. So that's why it's all so like, why are these Turaga all getting kidnapped, right? After the Toa Nuva split up and lost all their powers, Nokama wanted to tell Gali about the Turaga's previous adventures as Toa, but she's like, I don't want to do it directly because that'd be going against the council. So instead, this is where her like stupidity and wanting to be right comes into play. She's like, okay, I'm going to lead you to a secret cool place, Gali, right? So they swim underground. And this is, of course, when Gali has no elemental powers, right? And no additional Nuva mask because it's just when the Toa Toa Nuva split up. She leads her into a cave, right? And it's just like all dark and stuff. And then Nokama swims out, flicks a lever that makes the entire cave sealed off underwater, right? And so the only way to get out is to go forward, because Golly's like, either she's a dirty traitor that Makuta got to, or she's trying to teach me something, perhaps both. And so she goes deeper in the cave, and there's all these weird drawings about like the Turaga, but they kind of look like they're bigger and almost Toa-esque, right? So as she goes further in, she finds the Great Mask of Speed, which is conveniently located. As she takes it out, it turns out there was a massive like squid in the end of the cavern that was trying to eat her. And so she could get away from it with the Mask of Speed. But when she switched off the Mask of Speed, or when she switched on the Mask of Speed, she didn't have the Mask of Water breathing. And she had no elemental powers to like push away the water to get some air. So this is where she actually uses that aforementioned Mask of Speed Nuva power, where she goes so fast, she phases through the molecules out of the cave, right? And then she confronts Nokama and is like, what the heck was that, right? Nokama's like, oh, that was about the Toa. I wasn't trying to kill you totally, yeah. So that's one of the most major events in Nokama-related stuff. However, when we get to the events of Mask of Light, she will also be the one that translates the prophecy written on the Mask of Translation. Any comments about Turaga Nokama?
I don't like Turaga Nokama very much.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking as a Turaga, she's just kind of... Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of her.
She's mostly just annoying, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
And not a super cool set either, but we'll get to that in sets, I guess.
Women.
You almost made me cap my mic. Moving on, we come to Turaga Wanua, the leader of Onu Koro. He wears the Noble Ruru, which is the Mask of Night Vision. So I'm not sure how necessary that is, because Onu affiliated people also have increased night vision. So he just sees really, really well at night. Although when he travels with Onua later, like they seem to have the same amount of range that they can see. So I have no clue what's going on there. He also has his badge of office, which is humbly called the Drill of Onua. Sorry, of Wanua. It's called the Drill of Wanua because he is Wanua.
What? No, it's not. It's called the Drill of Onua.
Wait, it is?
Yeah.
So that wasn't a typo?
Nope.
Why?
Wait till you see what Matau's staff is called.
Wait, let me check. Oh, yeah, that is kind of weird. We'll get to that, I guess. So, it's called the Drill of Onua, no clue why at all. So, Turaga Wanua's notable traits are that he is actually legitimately wise and intelligent, much like Onua, the Toa, so they're a good match there. And he's thoughtful, and he likes Onua. He doesn't have a contentious relationship with him at all. He loves the past and is always looking to the past for answers, right? This puts him in conflict with Turaga Nuju, because Nuju's always like, ooh, I like the future. And Wanua's like, no, you idiot, we already fought this stuff. We can just see what we did then. So he's also a very hands-on Turaga, which I like. Like multiple times when Onu Koro is getting attacked, he'll just be out there with a drill, like whacking away at it. Or like if they need something cleared away, he'll be there doing it. So I'm like, that's not a trait most of the other Turaga have. He's also a co-founder of the game Kolhi, but we will cover that more in Turaga Onua's section. So some notable events in which he was involved was he was attacked by a Vakuta, which is a purely elemental rock creature that was created when it was exposed to energized protodermis. And they are so rare that most Matoran thought they were like just a legend, right?
Sorry, really quickly, is it Vakuta or is it Vatuka?
Vatuka.
Okay.
Correction, it is a Vatuka. No relation to Makuta.
Now, who would have saved this poor Turaga?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, because it was actually, surprisingly, Hafu. No, it's
Hafu.
Takua.
Do you know how excited I got just for a brief moment? I was like, my boy Hafu coming in clutch.
Nope, Hafu is nothing to do. Anyway, so Takua saved him, but that wasn't just the main event, because they went on to work with each other after that, doing such things like clearing out part of the Great Mine and whatever. Eventually, during the Borak Call crisis, he teamed up with Onua to fight a giant worm that was attacking Onu Koro. And when I say giant worm, I mean this thing was like 6-7 times bigger than Onua Nuva, right? And he's just out there whacking away at it with his drill. I'm like, dang. And they actually won. So I'm like, good on him. So he was the second advocate for telling the Toa about the past, along with Nokama. And because he knew Onua could totally handle it, he's like, yeah, Onua could do a lot with this knowledge, right? We should give the Toa all this stuff. But the other Turaga were less trusting of their respective Toa. He's also the one that shows Pohatu and Onua the Krata cave in Powahi, right? Because coming up with the events about the Rakshi and whatever, he'll be like, yeah, here's where we caught a bunch of Krata and stored them in stasis. So he's pretty cool, all things considered. Next is Turaga Onua, Onewa, not to be confused with Toa Onua, Onua.
So it's not Onawa, it's Onua.
Look up how it's pronounced, maybe.
Oh.
So I didn't know if it was Onawa, but okay. So there's Onua the Toa, Wenua the Turaga, and Onua the Turaga.
It's pronounced either Onua, Oniwa, or Anua. You can say this however the heck you want.
I might just call him Onawa just to like,
yeah, to differentiate.
Distinguish between the two.
That does help. So, Turaga Onawa, he is the leader of Po Koro. So, unlike Onua, who is the Toa of Earth, Turaga Onua is the Turaga of Stone. So, two completely separate elements, mind you. No relation at all. He wears the noble komau. This has been a very pronunciation-intensive one. So this is the mask of mind control, and it's as busted as it sounds. However, he doesn't get to use it much because it only works on humanoid or Matoranoid entities. They have to be sapient to some extent, so he doesn't get to use it against any of the infected Rahi or the Borak or the Balrogs, because the Balrogs are too powerful to be mind controlled, and he doesn't use it against any of the Matoran because he's not that much of a sleazebag, even though he should tell Akmu to kill himself.
Dang.
So Wenua gets slightly better eyesight, and then Onawa gets mind control. Okay, that seems fair.
Fair and balanced powers, yes. His badge of office is a stone hammer, and it's not a hammer made of stone, but it's like one of those things you use to like chisel stone. You know, in Shawshank Redemption, the little hammer he gets for this, that's what it looks like, but on a larger scale. His notable traits are he's very fair and he's a skilled negotiator. He's sometimes called the referee because he referees a lot of Kolhi matches, and he got that position because he's so trusted in his judgments. And he co-founded Kolhi. So this happened when a Po Matoran and an Onu Matoran were arguing over a statue. The Onu Matoran's like, this carving is garbage, and the Po Matoran's like, it's only garbage because the stone you gave me was trash. And so they're arguing about, whatever. And then Onua and Wenua came up, and they're like, okay, we need a way to settle debates between villagers, so like, we'll just play a game to see who's right. However, Kolhi grew far beyond just settling disputes and became the undisputed most popular sport on the entire island. This is also why Po Koro is kind of the highest end Kolhi players, because they have both the physical strength and endurance to succeed, and because it is the co-birthplace of it, with very practiced athletes and lots of place to do it. So he was kidnapped by Kofu Jaga, who are like tiny little scorpions, but they come in like massive swarms. Swarms of them are actually able to take out mantis crabs, so they're legit. And he was saved by, I can't remember his name.
Oh, I feel like we talked about him earlier, didn't we?
Maybe.
Is it? It's Jaller.
No. I don't think it was Akmu either.
No, wait, it was Takua.
Oh,
Takua,
yeah, it was Takua.
Takua.
I know, I couldn't believe it either.
That's crazy.
Anyway, Takua just Pied Pipering all the Kofu Jaga. Anyway, so when he was saved by Takua, and when the Kolhi plague eventually hit Po Koro through the infected Kolhi balls that Akmu was selling, Onua was actually, this is my favorite part about his lore, he carved beds out of stone for the sick Matoran so that they could have a more comfortable place to lay down as they were ailing.
Stone beds. So much
Blue
better than the
legend.
ground.
When you're made of metal, it might be. But honestly, I have no clue. Maybe put little, like, Google bird feather mattresses. You don't know. Maybe he carved those too. Anyway, that is all I have for Onua. Any closing quotes? Inspirational diatribes?
I like him as a Turaga much more than as a Toa.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for
Same.
sure. And when we get to Chronicler's Corner, the comparisons will be off the charts. So, Turaga Matau is the leader of Lee Koro. The leader of Lee Koro, if you will.
We need a new host.
So, he has the Noble Mahiki, which is the Mask of Illusion, allowing him to create auditory illusions. Not visual, because only the Great Mask can do visual illusions, only auditory illusions. But here's where the funny part comes in. His badge of office is the Cow Staff, which no relation to the Kanohi Cow, which is the mask
Golly's
of water
mask.
breathing. Yes. Instead, the Cow Staff is just a chainsaw on a stick.
Well, it's more of a buzzsaw, but
Yes.
yeah.
It is a buzzsaw on a stick.
I want a buzzsaw on a stick.
I once saw a buzz on a stick.
I think you were buzzed when you saw that stick.
I'd like to tell you where to stick your buzz.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the chainsaw I'd like as an accessory because it's
Buzzsaw. It's not a chainsaw.
I like the buzzsaw as an accessory because it's a nice correlation to Toa Lua's giant axe, right? Like you got a big old axe and then you have a buzzsaw.
Deforestation, baby.
Heck yeah.
Woo, woo, woo.
Kill those trees.
They're Toa of air. They're not Toa of trees.
Good point. Toa plant lives are completely different
That's
things.
true.
And they can make infinite plant life, so it works out. Moving on from that, his notable traits are that he's easygoing but fairly competent in what he does. At least it's said that he's competent. It's not shown in anything that happens. He's called the Singer because of his great singing skill. Cleverly Matoran stuff with that one, right? He's pretty cool under pressure, which is good because there's a lot of pressure at Lee Koro. And he's friends with Nuju, but he pranks him constantly, right? As discussed with Turaga Vakama. Notable events that he's gone through is that he got kidnapped, but this time with a twist, with almost the entirety of the residents of Lee Koro
Again?
by Nui Rama,
Wait,
the flying wasp things.
that is the second time that almost the entirety of Lee Koro has been kidnapped or enslaved in some way.
No, this is the first time almost the entirety of Lee Koro, and the only time. Because when the Borok attacked, all of Lee Koro, not most, all of them got turned into, got Karana on him.
What the heck is going on with the Lee Matoran?
Well, I mean, have you seen Lua? Like, if that's any indication of how they're like, I get it.
Well, and Lua tried to save them, but guess what? That's when he got the infected Kano he put on him.
Tried to save them from the Borok.
From the Nui Rama.
From the Nui Rama.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When he tried to save him from the Nui Rama, he got infected. Kanohi mask put him on. When he tried to save them from the Borok, he got the Krana put on him.
Skill issue.
Yeah, massive skill issue. So, with the help of Takua and Onua, Lee Koro was saved and the mask was removed from Lua. And the rest is history, I guess, until the Borok invasion, when it all happens again.
So, did they basically just like recycle that plot line for the Borok?
So there seem to be a lot of recycled plot lines in Bionicle, right? Like the infected mask and the infected Chrono Lee Koro. And you just see it through a lot of, like even the Borok and the Borok Call, right? It's similar things. Hunt for the masks they have to do again. Needing information from the Turaga again. Beating Makuta again. Like it's just infinite cycles. Like, even you can even see that with like Toa Mata, Toa Nuva, right? It's just, okay, do the same stuff, but different slightly.
It seems like maybe because early on they were more not constrained necessarily, but like constrained by choice to the physical sets. Like they wanted to be able to have the collectible stuff. They wanted people to recognize them, and also they were constrained by the media, right? Their idea that they wanted to use as much they wanted it to be a multimedia project, right? So they were probably doing a little storyline here, a little storyline there, and since they were spreading it out so much that they just but chose to reuse similar plot lines, because it's like, oh, it's okay because these people are going to get it from here, these people will get it from this source, and it didn't matter so much because it all just had to do with selling the collectible sets.
Yeah, and I also think in the beginning they were kind of afraid to stray from the story Bible, or themes and plot lines laid out by the story Bible. So that's also why you get similar repeats in the early years, especially. Next, we move on to Turaga Nuju, who is the leader of Ko Koro, not Ta Koro, not Ga Koro, Ko Koro. So he wears the Domo Matato, which is the mask of telekinesis. And this is a very good mask, especially for a Turaga, because it allows you to lift things far beyond your normal strength capacity, like he lifts Kopaka Nuva with it. And he can also lift boulders and rocks with it. So he's basically a toe of stone at that point. His badge of office is an ice pick, which is just like a normal ice pick that you'd use for climbing ice. Imagine it's basically what Galadriel uses in Rings of Power at the very beginning.
We don't talk about that.
Of all of the ice picks in all of media and all of history, that's the reference you choose to use?
Imagine the ice climbers from Super Smash Bros. Brawl and the picks they use. That's what Turaga Nuju uses. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. That's all going out. So he uses his notable traits include being analytical, confident, and loving secrets. Boy, howdy, does he love secrets. He is so dedicated to secrets, it would blow your mind. First, in kind of that foray, is that he only speaks in the Rahi language of the birds.
What?
Yes.
Okay. He never just uses English or whatever the basic language
Correct.
is.
He never speaks Matoric except in times of great sadness or joy. As far as I know, there's only one time in all of the lore where he actually speaks Matoric.
Okay, so this is by choice.
Oh yeah, it's totally by choice.
Okay, so he's crazy or something.
He's a jerk.
Okay.
They give justifications for it, some of which will be in Chronicler's Corner, but one of them is he feels that he needs to teach others patience. So if they don't have the patience to listen to him talk and then have Matoro translate, then they don't deserve to listen to anything he has to say. In the Chronicler section, there's two more important details that semi-justify it, but nothing ever fully justifies just not speaking in the most convenient manner possible. He has to literally train Matoro in this entire language just so he can uselessly interpret.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, for this reason, I hate him very much. Also, he never advocated at any time for the Toa Nuva to learn any secrets. He was firmly, up until the time that they actually tell them about adventures in Mata Nui, he's like, nah, I'm not for that. And when they started telling it, it was still against his will. I'm like, dang, bro, you really hate them. Although Kopaka is kind of his elemental counterpart, so I can see, I don't know what he's going to do with that information, really. Editor's note, I was very tired here and started mumbling unintelligible nonsense, so this is the following reaction to that.
Thomas is
I'm dying up here.
I'm so tired, get me out of here. They have me tied up.
Meanwhile, I'm just...
So he always thought the future had the answers, as opposed to Turaga Wanua, who always thought the past had the answers. Onu was right every time. And he loved testing people's patience because, jerkwad as mentioned. He also has a minor ability to see visions, though it's not like Vakama's where it just kind of comes naturally. He has to do deep and thorough meditation, which is what he spends most of his time doing, because nothing happens in Kokoro. So he does have some minor ability to see the future. Actually, he also has some minor ability to see present things, from like different, areas. Notable events is that he got lost in the drifts around Kokoro, and he had to be saved by Takua.
Wait, Takua?
Yes, Takua.
The Takua?
Not Hafu. Not Kopik. Takua. Yeah, the Sanctum Guard, nowhere to be found.
Shocker
I
there.
know. We've been ragging on the Sanctum Guard.
They're probably too busy guarding the sanctum.
Yeah, like no one's getting in this sanctum. Anyway, and it's also the lamest kidnapping thing because like the other people, they got kidnapped by animals or whatever. He just went out for a walk and got lost. Like, what a loser. Anyway, he was the one to suggest that the Chronicler's company be formed. So when he was talking with Takua after he got saved in the drifts, no, that was a different moment. Totally unrelated to it. When the Toa were going to fight Makuta, he's like, okay, there's going to be reinforcements coming. Takua, you take my left-hand man and all the other left hands of the Turaga, left-hand people, not their physical left hands, and you go and fend off the reinforcements at Kinanui. So that's what the Chronicler's company was, and he was the one that initiated that. So he also saved Kopaka's life when he lost his elemental powers going over that crevice and used his mask of telekinesis, as mentioned in the Toa Nuva episode. And he is so committed to the bit of speaking only in the Rahi language that after Takua saved him out of the drifts, so he goes back and Takua's like, I really need to talk with you. But Matoro is out hunting. So he's just standing around only speaking in the Rahi language. So Takua has to go out, find Matoro who's hunting in the drifts, bring him back so that he can talk with Turaga Nuju. I'm like, wow, man. That's some crazy levels of commitment.
Oh, I'm so glad I was able to save you. I have a question. No, actually, this is important.
Get Kongu and the Google birds and just Google birds like, why are you cussing so much, bro?
Translation, I am hungry. Bring me pizza.
In Kokoro, they only have frozen pizzas.
Bottom.
Wah, 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 wah. So that pretty much sums up the Turaga as individuals. Are there any questions before we move on?
Why does Nuju suck so much?
Because Nuju's a loser. We'll move on now to how Turaga function kind of as a species because they're different from Matoran and Toa in a few critical ways. To become a Turaga, a Toa must complete their destiny and give up their Toa power to become a Turaga. Toa power is separate from elemental power, so they still have some elemental power and the elemental affiliation, but there's no like Turaga power, right? Just like how Toa specifically have Toa power, there's no equivalent to either Matoran or Turaga. It's pretty unique in that instance. Turaga cannot wear great masks. They can only wear noble masks. So there are unpowered masks, which have no powers, noble masks, which anyone can wear, and Turaga and Toa can use them for their powers. And then there are great masks, which only Toa can use. So most Turaga wear noble masks because it's just no reason not to, really. Turaga also have very limited elemental abilities. So on that scale of before when we mentioned the Toa Nuva, Turaga would probably be like a 3 or a 2. Like it is very limited in what they're able to do. However, they are able to use it wisely, right? Like, so Turaga Nuju will sometimes like flash freeze things and just like very small things, right? Editor's note again, here I was still tired and began rambling off and saying things that have no basis in the Bionicle canon at all.
You don't say.
Thomas is spitting facts right now.
Sure.
So, for the advantages, even though they're like the wizened old elders, they're actually physically stronger, tougher, and more endurant than Matoran. Like, if Nuju wanted to fist fight a Matoran, he would probably win. No, that's a bad example. If Turaga Wanua wanted to fist fight a Matoran, he would crush them.
That's okay. At least their body or their soul would come back.
Wanua would leave no crumbs. They would be atomized. He'd turn on his mask at night vision like a flashlight and just disintegrate.
He's just, they're like,
carries around a magnifying glass.
I was like, the Matoran come out, they just see Winnow just over there, like with a magnifying glass, just like burning the ground. They're like, "What are you doing, Turaga Wanua?" Making sure this bleep doesn't come back.
The Red Star ain't got nothing to regenerate.
Imagine magnifying glass on a Matoran. It's like, is this supposed to do something? It will.
Oh gosh.
And they of course all have a badge of office that they use as just a way to show symbols, whatever.
So is there any like inherent power in those badges of office, or are they literally just like a tool?
So they act like a toad tool in that they can channel their elemental abilities through it, but it's not technically necessary.
Okay, got it.
So the other really cool thing about Turaga just as a species is they can form kaitas, like Toa can, whereas Toas cannot form Nuis and Matoran cannot form kaitas. Turaga can form kaitas and Nuis. So you can have 3 Turaga form into a kaita or 6 Turaga form into a Nui. And that can be actually really powerful, although we never see it in the lore. I'm like, dang, that would be sick to see all the Turaga form into a Nui and just like evaporate a Makuta or something. Well, except that they're the Turaga Metru, so they'd never be unified enough to make that. Okay, so moving on to what the Turaga did on Mata Nui, the island. The Turaga guided the Toa, and they gave them vague hints about where to find masks. They didn't want to be too explicit because that would stop the Toa from learning important lessons, but that's a load of hooey. As you can see, I'm not a huge fan of the Turaga. They're kind of losers. They would also tell them about threats to the island after the threats happen. So it's like, oh, that's not useful at all. So like the Borok, right? The Borok show up. It's like, oh, yep, Borok exists. We knew the whole time. And the same thing will happen in the Mask of Light events. They'll be like, oh, yeah, we knew about Rakshi the whole time. We just didn't tell you about them, or that Makuta can create them at will. It's like, oh, thanks, guys. That's so useful.
Knowledge is power, folks.
Yep. The Turaga like, I don't want them to have any more power. I'll give them the Mask of Time, but telling them things? No. That's way too far, bro. It was always a struggle between them on how much information they wanted to give, with some Turaga wanting to give more, and some Turaga, aka Nuju, wanting to give less to none. This was the total wrong choice, because all of the information they could give would be really useful to the Toa, Mata, and Nuva. So, kind of a bummer. Eventually, the Turaga start to tell them some secrets of the island, as seen with like the Nokama and Vakama events. But it's not until after the events of Mask of Light when they will spill all of the beans about their entire backstory and the wider context of the universe. In the past, as a group, they captured and imprisoned all of the Krata that Makuta had going around the island infecting Konohi masks. So these Krata were the ones that caused the Rahi to become crazy and work for Makuta. And when they collected all the Krata, that's when they stored them in the cave in Powahi, and they somehow stored them all in suspended animation. I'm not exactly sure where they got all these tiny animation suspension tubes on Mata Nui, which is like a super primitive island, but I would have to fact check more to see if they like brought it from the archives or something.
Were the Toa on the island when they were going after the Krata, or was this before the Toa even came to Mata Nui?
So this was near the beginning of the Great War. So this was like 900 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And this was actually where their elemental powers came in handy, because Krata are pretty vulnerable to things like boulders or getting flash frozen or hit with a fireball or things like that. So that's why the Turaga had to do it rather than the Matoran. When the Toa were collecting masks, the noble masks, there were noble masks hidden around the island that the Toa collected, and each Toa gifted the set of noble masks to the Turaga. So through most of the events of the story, they had access to those masks, although they rarely, if ever, used these. Which seems like a massive blunder to me, but I don't know. I'm not a Turaga, I guess. Are there any questions before we move on to the Chronicler's Corner?
Yeah. Or not necessarily did, but was Vakama ever capable of using the Mask of Time after he became a Turaga?
No, it is a great mask.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Only Toa can use great masks.
Yeah,
correct.
That makes sense with what she said earlier. So anything with like the prefix of Konohi, is that a great mask?
No.
Or is that
No.
just any
Konohi
mask?
just means mask.
Okay.
Anyway, so we now move on to the Chronicler's Corner portion of this podcast. You are now entering the Chronicler's Corner. The following content may not be appropriate for viewers unaware or unacquainted with the wider Bionicle lore, as major plot points and reveals will be spoiled. If you wish to avoid this section, skip to this time in the podcast.
49 minutes, 22 seconds.
Viewer discretion is advised. Now that we're in the Chronicler's Corner, we will continue on the track of why Nuju doesn't speak normal Matoric. He has two given justifications, the first being that when he was a Toa Hortica, he was learning the language from the Rahaga, right? And he speaks it that way as a reminder of how they failed in Mata Nui and an inspiration to never fail that bad again. The other reason that I think is much more valid is that the Toa Metru argued so much and were so ineffective as a team that he lost faith in the concept of language as a whole. And he's like, if they can't be trusted with language to make a team, I'm just not going to speak a Matoran language. And so that's why he speaks the language of the Rahi.
Yeah, upon further reflection, I'm not sure why I'm complaining that he doesn't speak anymore. Like, that kind of seems like a win-win for everybody.
No, that's a good point. Except that he wastes people's time.
That's true, yeah. Fair.
Although he's wasting he wasted Takua's time, and that's not acceptable.
And he's wasting Matoro's time.
Good point.
Matoro likes it. It's
Moving
true.
on.
He does.
So, and another fact about Nuju, when they figured out Matoro had died, saving the entire universe, after they had the big old ceremony and his funeral, Nuju actually went away and he just wept quietly because Matoro was like his closest friend. And then he had to speak Matoric until he found another translator and went back to speaking the language of the Rahi. I'm like, dang, bro, you moved on fast.
He literally was just crying because he had to speak in Matoran, or Matoric, whatever it is.
He's like, it'll take me 20 minutes to teach a new guy. He just hates onboarding new employees. Yeah, Nuju's the worst. So, after Matoro died, Turaga Onua personally carved a statue of Matoro after his death. So I thought, that was kind of a kind gesture.
Based Onawa.
Yeah, Onua. Turaga Onua, not Turaga Onua. That could be anyone. So, when all of the Turaga and Matoran were back on Mata Nui, like after the events of Mata Nui, so like when they're restoring and reclaiming Mata Nui, the Order of Mata Nui approached them and they're like, okay, we want to turn Mata Nui into a giant fortified base because the Brotherhood and Dark Hunters are going to come at us with everything they want. And the Turaga are like, no, we don't want to do that. I'm like, oh wow, they finally got a spine. And then the Order of Mata Nui imprisoned them and didn't let them do anything and turned Mata Nui into a fortress anyway. I'm like, okay. At least you had some cool moment. It was just kind of funny because I'm like, why would you not want to? That's the objectively correct decision. Although they did still end up fighting in the final battle, so I don't know how secure that prison was. Secure as the pit, I guess. On a different note, during the Dark Times, which is the period in which Makuta ruled over the GSR, our friend Akmu, he actually shows up again. And so, you know how I mentioned that he was like reformed when he was getting attacked by Pterodax and Takanuva got hit with the Shadow Leech? Turns out he wasn't. And in the Dark Times, he was named as the Turaga of Mata Nui by none other than our good friend Makuta.
Wait, that doesn't make sense. He's not even a Turaga.
Correct. He just got named Turaga because it carried the authority and leadership capabilities, even though it's Akmu. I'm like, dang. He's just the worst.
That's stupid.
Although, he can't be a worse Turaga than Nuju. So, what am I complaining about? At least he can speak Matoric. Turaga were frequent targets of assassinations and kidnapping by Dark Hunters. They'd also often steal their badges of office as like bargaining chips or just like proof that they actually killed the guy. So being a Turaga in the Matoran universe is a very dangerous profession. Or if you're Turaga Jovan, then you're just minding your own business when suddenly the part of the continent you're on shoots up through the universe and you die. But that's neither here nor there.
I feel like now I want context for this.
Oh yeah, so you know Voyanui?
Yeah.
So that was a part of the southern continent that when the Great Cataclysm happened, it shot upwards out of the Great Spirit robot. all of the Voyanui Matoran and Turaga Joven were on that. When it shot up through, he didn't make the trip and he died.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why all the Voyanui Matoran have no Turaga on their village and they have to be very self-sufficient.
Oh, I was wondering why there weren't any Turaga on that village. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then 2 final facts about Turaga. A Turaga can actually be turned back into a Toa with the Mask of Life. I'm like, I don't know how that works because they'd need their Toa power back. But I'm like, if it's a form of life energy, Mask of Life could just give Toa power, right?
Are there any examples of this in canon, or is it just like a theoretical?
It's a theoretical example.
I would like to acknowledge that the Mask of Life can turn a Borak back into an Abmatoran, so I think it's perfectly acceptable for it to turn a Turaga back into a
Well, it could do
Toa.
both. If it's an Avmatoran, it can turn it into an Av Turaga and then back to a Borak. it can just ping pong back and forth.
It can turn like random pieces of like swamp stuff into a Toa. So
One word. Gadunka. Enough said.
Good point. Toa Gadunka, my favorite Toa.
Toa Gadunka.
Yeah, if it can turn random swamp junk into a Toa, yeah, granting Toa energy back doesn't seem like that big of a hurdle. And finally, following up on that Vakama comment at the beginning, the fire staff that he uses as his badge of office was the one he used as a Matoran, and then that's also one he carried as a Toa, and then that's the one he uses as a Turaga. So I'm like, that's a cool element to keep through his entire life, just a fire staff.
So just to clarify, Matoran can become Toa, and Toa become Turaga, but like the Mata were created as Toa. They were not from Matoran, but then the Metru were from Matoran. All of them, or just Vakama?
The Metru were all from Matoran. No one else kept their Matoran tools.
Okay, and so generally speaking, do they come from Matoran? Like the Toa come from Matoran? Are the Mata the exception?
Mata are one of the few exceptions.
Well, the Nika come from Matoran.
Well, yeah. But
So as far as we know, there was one Toa team who was created wholesale as Toa. There were the Toa Mata who were given to Artaka to create as Toa wholesale, and then Helrix was also created straight up as a Toa.
Yeah.
Those are the only Toa we know about who were created just as Toa. There were actually Turaga that were created just as Turaga, but there were very few, and we don't know any specific ones who were.
Samuel, the way that it typically works is how it does with the Metru. So you have a Toa team that gives up their power willingly. They pass on the Toa stones to another set of Matoran. Those Matoran take the Toa stones. They become Toa. And then they give up their power when their destiny is complete, and so on and so on. That's the way it typically works. Mm-hmm. But then 2 out of the 3 Toa teams that we know of don't do that, so, you know.
And the Anika are the most random. Hit them with lightning again. You're going to say something?
I was just going to say a little something about the first Turaga. We don't know the names of one of them, but he ruled over the village where Toa Lesovic is from.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, because of all the stuff that went down there, he went insane and just shipped all the Matoran to Karzani.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all we know about the first Turaga.
Yep. Still better than Nuju.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, we talked about how Gali went to the island of Karzani and blew it up. The Matoran there, are those them? Is that how Matoran got there? Is they were
we should do a Karzani episode.
First Turaga's Matoran?
So the Matoran that got sent to Karzani from that Turaga got shipped off after getting repaired, and Lisovic actually spends almost all of his time in the Matoran universe hunting them down. Yeah. So there's this whole web serial about his adventures trying to find those Matoran. That's why he's actually in Mata Nui, because he's looking for those Matoran. Are there any further questions before we move on?
Lisovic is sick and dope.
Yeah, I love Lisovic. Now I guess we move on to set/technical.
You are now entering the set and technical portion of the podcast. This is where we examine the real-world production and set design of the LEGO Bionicle toy line.
All right, so the technical set aspects. So these are sets 8540 through 8545, the Turaga.
We forgot to talk about if they were lore upgrades from their Metru counterpart.
Well, I think we could talk about it the other way. We can say...
Good point,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so the Turaga sets were sets 8540 through 8545, with some other exceptions. They also came in poly bags for some reason. And, Thomas, to answer your question, yes, these did come packaged with Japanese candy. Okay, so these sets were released in 2001 alongside the first wave of the Toa and their infected Rahi opponents and the Matoran. The Turaga functioned as mass market pocket change models that could be quickly and easily built, and featured many of the same desirable traits as the Toa, although at half the price, retailing for $3. Under half the price, actually. Featuring roughly 30 parts, the Turaga all had roughly the same build, with Technic lift arms forming the body, Technic connectors forming the arms and legs, and Toa heads making up the feet without the eye inserts, and their head with the eye insert. What was interesting about these pieces were they were actually colored to the Turaga's color scheme, whereas all of the Toa heads were just light gray. So kind of interesting that they did end up coming. Each Turaga had 3 of those head pieces in whatever color. So
That's really cool.
Yeah. Each Turaga had a play feature where moving a little lever on the back would theoretically move the arms up and down.
Theoretically.
Although if you try to do this, it will move the whole Turaga. Like the whole body will often move. Yeah, it wasn't a super well thought out play feature.
They really liked the idea of arms moving, didn't they?
They really did. I mean, that was like their all-time favorite thing at the time, yeah.
They're like, this is cool, but what if the arms moved? Whoa!
So each Turaga set also included a different staff that corresponded to their element, as we know, as Thomas talked about. So the first one is Vakama, arguably the most important Turaga. He had a color scheme matching his Toa counterpart Tahu with a red and orange design. So this is true across all Turaga, not just Vakama, but the arms, legs, and mask would be in one of the colors, so in this case orange, and then the head, feet, and staff would have been in the other color, so red for Vakama. And this was true again across all of the Turaga. Vakama had his fire staff, which was also used in 2002 with the Tanakh Va. Vakama featured the Turaga version of the Kanohi Huna, so the Noble Huna, which came in the set in orange, but could also be found in various other colors throughout sets and mask packs in this wave, including one very special variant, which was packaged with the Komao, so Matau's Noble Mask, as a special Legoland Bill-in promotion and cast in the exclusive Bionicle copper color, which would never be seen again, ever. It is so rare and so exclusive, it came on 2 pieces ever, and it's literally called Bionicle copper because it only comes in just those 2.
So sometimes they'll retire colors because they don't want to print like pieces in that color, and then sometimes they'll just make an entirely new color for like 2 pieces and never again.
Yup. And you wonder why Lego went bankrupt in 2004.
So there's only one pair of these masks.
I mean, there are multiple of these masks, but the only 2 pieces ever printed in that color
got it. Okay.
were those 2 masks. They're actually like relatively common to the point where you could pick them up for like $5 each, which is really surprising to me. But yeah, I mean, what's interesting though is the Bionicle copper, quote unquote Bionicle copper color, is actually really similar to the Mata gold color. And some people actually get them confused, but
Those people are idiots.
all of the Mata masks came only in that what was considered to be gold, even though the copper and the gold color actually look pretty similar. So
Yeah, like when I was younger, I got a I think it was Galley's mask in the Mata Gold, and I was like, wait a minute, I've never seen, or I don't think they made like the Mata masks in bronze. Like I might really have something valuable here. And I realized, oh, this is worth like $2.
Yeah. Yeah, they're supposed to be gold. I don't know why they're not. They ended up switching to, so Lego had 2 different gold colors that they used with Bionicle. So the first one was the dark gold color, which you would first see with the Mask of Light, and some of the accents for Takanuva. And then that would be used up until 2005. And then it switched over to the pearl gold. So kind of interesting.
I do like the Takanuva gold color. I think it's just neat.
It's really nice. I like it a lot. I think I might like it better than pearl gold. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but
You and your color takes, man. You're going to get shot.
I know. I better be careful. I'll never go outside again.
That
All
guy
right.
doesn't like light gray. Blah, 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 blah.
I want to see what color of red your blood is.
The color of my lead.
Oh, gosh. Anyway, so yeah. So interesting note about that, and also slight correction to when I said I thought the Mata masks came in copper, but they did not. They only came in the gold color. All right, so next up we have Nokama, who features...
When do we give our comments on like each individual build?
Oh, we can talk about that now.
I mean, they're all very similar, so I don't have tons and tons to say about Vakama. I was just going to mention, I find his mask very interesting. Like, at first, I wasn't a huge fan of it, because I was like, it honestly just looks like he has like a big nose. Like, he looks like a Minecraft villager or something. But like, it's really grown on me because it looks very much like that wise old elder. And then honestly, it's one of the more iconic Bionicle masks anyway.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I love his little fire staff.
Mhm.
Pretty legit.
Yeah.
And it's cool to think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was that little fire staff that constructed the Mask of Light. Is that correct?
Mask of Time.
Mask of Time. That's right. No, Mask of Light.
Yes.
Mask of Time.
He also, interestingly, he did the modifications for Nuju's mask as well. So he's the one that gave him that binocular eye.
Ah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I don't like about some of both the Mata masks and the Turaga masks is how they don't totally cover the head underneath. That's especially evident with Matau's mask, but you can see it a little bit with Vakama, and it does slightly bug me, but not enough to dislike the mask as a general rule.
Mm. Yeah, I like when it covers it completely, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Call me crazy. Is that a crazy thing to say?
Anyway, okay, so next up we have Nokama. So Nokama has a nearly identical build to Vakama, although she has slightly longer arms, and her colors are blue and medium blue, replacing the red and orange respectively. Nokama had the trident staff that Thomas already mentioned, and she also had the noble Kanohi Rao. Her trident piece would actually appear outside of the Bionicle line, and was used mostly for like underwater vehicles in Alpha Team and Aqua Raiders. What do we think about Nokama?
I'm kind of mixed on Nokama.
No comment.
Boo. I think we need a new brother.
I honestly enjoy this color scheme a lot. I mean, I know it's like we've seen it obviously before with Gali, but I like that color scheme, and I really like the mask and the trident as well. And I was just wondering, Thomas, is there any other beloved character that shares the same mask?
There is no other beloved character that shares the same mask. There's a slimy little weasel who has her mask in a different color. But we don't talk about Turaga Akmu, do we?
I love that you have said his name different every single time you've said it.
His true name must never be said. He must not be named.
The only thing I don't like about Nokama's design is the long arms. I think they're just a smidge too long.
It is a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so all of these masks we see again on the Matoran from Mata Nui.
All of them, you're right.
Yes.
but with the dual mold, right?
Yeah, different colors.
Yeah.
Excellent observation, Clayton.
Why, thank you, Thomas.
Well,
No.
love isn't canon.
No, that's not love. All right. So next up, we got Nuju. All of our favorite Turaga, right? Boo.
Booju.
Anyway, Nuju would once again feature the familiar build, but this time with longer legs than the others. He had a white and light gray color scheme, which matches his counterpart, Kawakopaka. Nuju came with an ice pick in white, and he also had a light gray Kanohi Matatu, Noble Kanohi Matatu. Unlike the other Turaga staffs, Nuju's ice pick would remain exclusive to this set. It was never used again.
Exclusive to him and Galadriel.
Wow.
Just a comment on his mask. It's very square.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what I think about it.
I was going to say, I actually like his mask. I think it's one of the cooler ones because it looks like a mask that like someone would wear. It hits that mask element rather than trying to look like a face.
Something that's always bothered me about it is it looks like Grumpy Cat.
It totally
my
looks like Grumpy
gosh.
Cat. You're right.
Thanks for that.
Holy cow.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, like you were saying, Thomas, I can see that. Like I could picture this mask being like carved out of wood.
Yeah.
And like someone in real life wearing it.
Yeah,
It's
like I
kind
could
of-
see an actual wise elder wearing
Yeah, it
this
is kind
sort
of
of
cool.
mask.
You've sold me on it.
Yeah.
I love Nuju.
Sold.
I like Nuju. I think I would have swapped the colors though. I think I would have had it be a white mask and then the like arms and legs be gray. But
Yeah, I agree.
it's fine. I mean, he looks fine. He's not my favorite. He's not my least favorite either. Okay, next up we have Matau, who is green and lime, and he had a similar construction to the other Turaga, although he had a hunched sort of build, which made him look like he was shorter than the others. He came with a lime green Noble Kanohi Mahiki, and his staff was a green buzzsaw blade thing that Thomas was.
The cow staff.
The cow staff, completely unrelated to the Kanohi cow. Why they decided to name it that, only Greg knows.
Greg's like, my behind hurts. Did something escape?
We have a very love-hate relationship with Mr. Farshti.
No, it's just love.
We love
We
him.
love you, Greg.
Even though love is not canon.
We unity duty destiny Greg. Duty.
So Matau's staff would later be seen in the Lego Racers line used as buzzsaws, but in silver, interestingly.
Yeah. I was going to say, I hate his mask. Like, I just despise it.
Yes.
I don't hate it as much as I hate Wanua's mask.
I don't know that I can think of a Bionicle mask that I hate more than his mask.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it is.
so hideous.
It's legitimately
I
one of
hate
the
it.
worst masks I've ever seen. Like, I always forget about it until I look at it again. I'm like, I wish I could forget it again.
It has like a nose, a like wide mouth, and eyebrows.
And also one of the worst things about it is that it doesn't cover the head even a little bit. It doesn't even try.
Yeah, it's just, I have no clue what they're thinking. Like, just slap a face on this guy. It's like, aren't they supposed to be masks? No, you idiot.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bad looking mask.
Okay.
Also, I meant to say I don't like Onua's mask or Onua's mask. I do like Wanua's mask.
We're not even at them yet.
I know. I'm just saying. I said.
Well, then let's get to
Anyways,
them.
moving on. So next up we have Wanua, who has the shortest stance of all the Turaga with a hunch posture and shortened limbs. Despite his somewhat plain black and dark gray color scheme and his black noble Kanohi Ruru, Onua is definitely one of the most visually interesting and Wanua is definitely one of the most visually interesting and cohesive Turaga. I definitely wrote that wrong a lot. Whenua had the distinction of having his parts used most often in other sets, including his mask, which was featured in 2 of the Rahi sets that also came out this year, in transparent blue, as the eyes of the 8537 Nui Jaga, and as orange as part of the 8539 Manus set. So,
cool.
Yeah.
And I will say, good mask to use for this stuff. I really like his mask.
It's
and
a really good mask.
I like his set in general. Like, he looks very squat, but like sturdy and capable, which he should.
I really want to get my hands on some of those transparent blue ones.
Yeah, I really like the mask. I like his staff drill thing. I don't know if that's what it is, drill.
The staff of Onua.
So
Yeah,
it's
the
actually,
staff
it's
of
called the
Onua.
Drill of Onua.
Drill of
That's
Onua.
technically its name.
Interesting.
What's interesting too is this also isn't the first time you would see, or it isn't the last time you would see his mask, which was also included in the famed Power Pack, one of the all-time weirdest Bionicle pieces of merchandise. It's not even a set. I can't really call it a set. So what this thing came with was a Matoran, which was a different design from the other Matoran. So it was a Poe Matoran or an Onu Matoran. Is hard to tell because it was black and tan.
Sorry for the mix-up, Tan.
I beg your pardon? My name is Black. His name is Tan. I can't believe you just made that assumption. You should be ashamed of yourself and your family.
And it had a black version of Wenua's mask, so the same one that he has. But this also in the set was the chrome How, which only came in that. Yeah, like literally like Lego chrome color, which is actually super cool looking. It came with an exclusive Bionicle CD that I'm not exactly sure what's on it. I couldn't find good information about what's actually on it, and like a special case that went with it. And all of that was packaged together. All of those things are exclusive to that one little Power Pack set. And I can't find a ton of information about it. I don't even know where you got a hold of it. I'm like, if you had that set, that was a treasure trove of stuff.
Did they sell this in Japan by any chance?
I have no idea.
Do you know what it goes for now?
The whole set?
Yeah, the whole set.
Ooh, I don't, but I can look it up. When we get to the next section, I'll look it up. Anyway, the Wenua's staff actually has one of the most interesting uses outside of this set of all of the Turaga staff tools. So this one was used in 7 Mars mission sets in 2007 to 2008 as a drill piece. I guess it was like the only piece that they had that was like the right size that made sense as a drill.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like there are only 16 Mars mission sets and it was used in 7 of them. So it's kind of crazy that it just like had this random resurgence 5 years later and then disappeared again forever. So
It's bizarre.
yeah, super weird.
Just to comment on the price here. So the whole pack, if you're getting it used, the average price is around $43. But if you're trying to buy it new, it's around $150. So
Woo!
yeah,
That's not horrendous for the used price, actually. I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, I thought it would be a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
Go get yourself some chrome house.
Yeah, but not before I do.
Oh yeah, wait. When are we gonna release this? Give us time to buy it.
Yeah.
We must get the howls all shiny and chrome.
All right, last Turaga. This is Onua, featuring the most regal build of the Turaga with a very tall, upright posture. Onua stands out from the rest, literally and figuratively. He has a tan and brown color scheme and the Noble Kanohi Kamau. And he has a stone hammer staff. Other than that, he's pretty similar to the other Turaga. What's interesting is this is one of the other masks that comes in that copper color. I think, did I say it was Matau's mask before? I was wrong. It's this one. So I get them confused because they look a little bit similar to me, and I don't like either of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this one is the other one that comes in that bionicle copper color that I was talking about. Again, I don't understand how they picked these masks at all. Some of the things that Lego did at this point, I'm like, what were they doing? It doesn't make any sense.
Massive amounts of crack cocaine.
Clearly. So the stone hammer is actually interesting because it only ever came in one other set, which was the Parok Va. But it was recolored in tan for some reason.
That's bizarre.
I know. It's really strange. So it only came in this set in brown and then that set in tan.
Also, can I say it's so weird going from Wunua to Anua? Because it's like shortest possible Turaga, tallest possible Turaga. It's like, are you the same species?
Honestly, he is way too tall, in my opinion. If Nokama's arms are way too long, Anua's legs are way too long. So
yeah, at least he's kind of proportional, which...
Yeah, I mean, I really don't dislike him. He just, he doesn't do much for me. Okay. And then, so the other thing, so there was a set that was meant to come out as a Duracell promotion in 2003 called Gold Good Guy. And if you know anything about Bionicle, you know about good guys.
We love us some good guys.
Yep.
So this set is just so ugly. It's just so ugly. It later came out as it was released as Turaga Likan in 2003.
2006.
Sorry, 2006. It's just so bad, guys. It's really bad.
No, it's good, guys. So for those of you who can't see it, imagine if you took like all the arms and legs off of Matoran and then just put a floating mask and a random ginormous Toa tool and did not replace the arms or legs. That's what this guy looks like.
Yeah, like Thomas said, there's no head on this. It's just it's a mask.
It's a mask.
It's just attached at the very bottom.
Yeah.
And he has one hand.
Yeah. To hold the massive oversized tool.
Now, this is not the worst good guy that they ever released.
But it's close. And the competition is stiff.
His feet are just hand pieces.
Yep.
Basically. Like, I don't know if he can actually stand up.
Also,
yeah, I'm not sure if he would because he's like tilted at an angle because the ball joint hits the ground.
Also, as far as I can tell, all of these good guy, bad guy sets were released as Duracell promotions. So the only thing I have to say to Duracell is why? Why did you do this to us?
Sales dropped 80%.
Anyway, do yourself a favor. Go on Bricklink and type in good guy or bad guy and be treated to some of the best things you've ever seen in your life.
They're honestly phenomenal.
Yep.
Before we move on, any closing comments about the Turaga of Mata Nui?
I was just going to ask, are we able to talk about like the Turaga Doom set at all here, or will there be a separate time for that?
That will be in the Meta Nui episodes.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I do want to say, I think it's so interesting how many of the Turaga pieces were used outside of their builds. Like the masks were completely reused again. I do really appreciate that when they were reused in the Meta Nui Matoran, that they dual molded them, which I think is really cool.
I think the mask looks quite sick.
Yeah. I like them a lot. And then just, it's so fascinating how some like Bionicle pieces end up just having this life of their own that like lives on outside of their use in Bionicle. Yeah, it's super fascinating. Samuel, what did you learn today?
I learned that Takua is 100% the best Matoran to have ever existed. He just comes in all the time to save everybody else's butts. I mean, it's pretty funny, actually, because he does get in trouble often, so Jallar's there to save him, but he's always there to save everybody else.
Goated with the sauce. But not the goats that kidnapped Turaga Vakama. Different goats.
You are now entering the community portion of the podcast. In this section, we showcase some of our favorite creations from talented and passionate members of the Bionicle fandom.
So now we move on to the community section portion of the podcast. And First up, we have
Did you just say section portion?
1/4 portion of the section by Willman J13 on Reddit. He has the Turaga reimagined as the Turaga Nuva. So it'd be like if the Toa Nuva had turned into Turaga. And it also includes Taka Nuva as a Turaga. I think these are quite cool because I always like the concept of the Turaga Nuva. And he has custom masks made to kind of resemble what like a scaled down version of their Nuva masks would be like.
I like them.
Yeah, those are really cool. And I was just going to mention that Turaga Takanuva appears in an alternate universe.
Okay.
In one of the novels.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, yeah. But the Turaga Nuva don't appear in alternate universes.
Not as far as I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the idea of seeing the Toa as Turaga. Just completes their arc.
Yeah, those are fun little builds because, they can articulate a lot more than the Turaga Metro.
Yeah, it looks like they use pretty similar building techniques to the Voya Nui Matoran, which I've always really liked that design.
Yeah, I think it's cool, functional, looks nice, and still keeps to the Bionicle aesthetic. Next, we have by Never Off, but the E's are 3s. On Reddit, he has a reimagined Toa Metru, but they had the mass and colors of the Turaga Matau and they all have their Turaga color schemes as well. So I think it's a really cool, just alternate take. I especially like Wanua. I think he looks sick with the claws or the drilling scoops.
Yeah, it looks cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are fun. I really like the color scheme for Vakama.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the orange armor. I think that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't see a primarily orange fire, just really any fire related Bionicle build until Akar in 2008.
Mm-hmm. And then
2009, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, he also has the Turaga depicted as if they were the Toa Mata, and they look really neat and clean as well. So they keep almost the exact design of the original Turaga, just with the mask and tool swapped out. Next, we move on to by Oneku on Flickr. He has a Turaga revamp. This is the only one that he had that I can find. It's Turaga Onua, and he just looks much sturdier and like more built, I guess. It incorporates system pieces as well to give a more clean feeling to it. And it also incorporates CCBS pieces.
I really like maybe it's just the pose or maybe it is the build, how he's like hunched over and leaning on his staff. Because that instantly screams Turaga to me.
Yep.
Rather than like some of the other builds, and they don't look so much like how I imagine like a wise old person thing.
Yeah. And yeah, it just has those like instant Gandalf vibes.
Yeah.
I like how they kept the same piece for his badge of office. They just lengthened it. And then I appreciate that they use the same technique for his feet where it's using the Bionicle heads.
Mm-hmm. And that's a technique I actually like. I think it looks
it looks pretty
enough,
solid.
especially on the small builds.
Yeah, it works.
So then we move on to this is just a cool piece of art that I found. It's Turaga Nuju, but if he was actually cool, and it's like it's an alternate universe piece of art where everything's more of that in-world stuff where you see the more biomechanical aspects to them and they're more filled out. And I just think it looks really neat and sparks the imagination nicely.
I also like if you look up the Ghost Hunter gun drawing of Vakama, and there's other iterations of Turaga Vakama, where he has like the kind of cauldron look. I really, really like this design. I just think it looks like this to me looks like how the set designers kind of imagined it to look, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like this is, I feel like the vibe that they were trying to go for. He encapsulates that really well.
Well, and I can definitely see this like being in like a children's comic book or whatever. Like it just fits that style perfectly and gets the personality across so well.
And that fire staff is just really cool.
Yeah, I think it's sick. These are definitely some of my favorite designs of the Turaga straight up.
Yeah, Turaga Vakama's mask reminds me just a little bit of, again, I hate to bring up Gen 2, but of the protectors from Gen 2, their masks. I always thought those masks would be perfect for like a Turaga mock. Like,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that the masks don't completely cover the head, but they're still really solid masks in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I do like just a lot of the sets of Gen 2 as well. So, any closing anecdotes, thoughts, diatribes, details?
No, I never really thought about the Turaga much, honestly. Like before we started researching this episode, they were always just kind of in the background, but I've really come to appreciate them as an aspect of the lore. Their sets I still am like, I could take them or leave them. But
Yeah.
I can see the impact that they had.
Yeah, I really wish we got to see more of the Turaga in the lore, like doing things, like having them use their elemental powers, even just a little bit, would be so cool, I guess, yeah. So it's always kind of a missed opportunity in my mind, but it is what it is, you know? So with that, we end today's episode, and we'd like to thank our very special guest, Clayton Jathan Newton, for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was a Nova Blast.
That was... Thomas, you're fired.
He said that. Not
I know.
me.
You're fired. He's replacing
No,
you.
I don't have time for this. I'm sorry.
He has a life. No.
No, it's always great to be here. Thank you guys.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, make sure to check out the next episode, which will be about the Borak Call. And until then, see you later.
And remember, guys, love is not canon.
That should always be our
But
outro.
liking and subscribing is.
This brings us to the end of today's podcast. If you enjoyed the discussion, please follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you like to watch instead of listen, you can also find us on YouTube. The Barraki Talk Show is only made possible thanks to viewers like you. Thank you.